All glories to the assembled devotees, Hare Krishna. All glories to Sri Guru and Sri Gauranga. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prasthaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swami Namne. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Reading from Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 3, Chapter 1, Text 5 and 6. Okay, so Sutta Uvacha Sa Evam Rishi Varyo Ayam Prishto Rajña Parikshita Pratya Aha Tang Subahu Vit Pritatma Shruyatam Iti Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Saevam Mishivaryoyam Prishto Rajña Parikshita Pratyahatam Subahuvit Pritatma Shruyatamiti Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Prishto Rajña Parikshita Pratyahatam Subahuvit Pritatma Shruyatamiti Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Prishto Rajña Parikshita Pratyahatam Subahuvit Pritatma Shruyatamiti. Please repeat. Sutta Uvacha Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Vishtaraya Parikshita Pritatma Shruyatamiti Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Vishto Rajña Parikshita Pratyahatam Subahuvit Pritatma Shruyatamiti. Mataris Sutta Uvacha Saevam Mishivaryoyam Pishto Rajña Parikshita Pritatma Shuyatamiti Sutta Vacha Saevam Mishivaryo Yam. Sutaha Uvacha. Sri Sutta Goswami said, Saha, he, Evam, thus, Rishi, Varyaha, the great Rishi, Ayam, Shukadev Goswami, Prishtaha, being questioned, Rajna, by the king, Parikshita, Maharaj Parikshit, Prati, 2. Aha, replied, Tam, unto the king, Subahuvit, highly experienced, Prita Atma, fully satisfied, Shruyatam, please hear me, Iti, thus. Translation by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Shukadev Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively. Okay, so I'm going to read text 6 as well. I'll just read through it myself. Shri Shuka Uvacha Yada tu Raja Swasutana Sadhun Pushnan Natarmena Vinashta Drishtihi Braturyavish Braturyavistas Yasutan Vibadhun Pravishya Laksha Bhavane Dadhaha. And then translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Translation. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons, and thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. Purport. Dhritarashtra was blind from birth, but his blindness in committing impious activities to support his dishonest sons was a greater blindness than his physical lack of eyesight. The physical lack of sight does not bar one from spiritual progress. But when one is blind spiritually, even though physically fit, that blindness is dangerously detrimental to the progressive path of human life. Om Jnanatimirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Mano Bhishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadama Hyam Dadati Svapadantikam Vande Ham Shri Guru Shri Utaf Padakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavangscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Saha Ganaraganatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padan Saha Ganalalita Shivashakan Vitamscha Hey Krishna Karuna Sindho Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostate Tapta Kanchana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sute Devi Pranamami Haripriye Vanchakapa Turubhyas Chakra Pasandubhi Eva Chapatita Nam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vikasa Swaminiti Namine Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prishtaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swaminiti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pacharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashchata Deshatarine Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shri Vasari Gaur Bhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare Vagisha Yasya Varne Lakshmi Yasya Chavaksasi Yasya Ste Hriday Samvitam Nasimham Hamaje Yasa Devi Prabhaktir Yata Devi Tatagaro Tasyaite Katita Hirta Prakashante Mahatmanaha. Okay, and then Sutta Uvacha Sa Evam Rishivaryo Yam Prishto Raknya Parikshita Pratyaha Tam Sabahu Vit Pritatma Shru Yatamiti. Sri Sutta Goswami said, the great sage Shukadev Goswami was highly experienced and was pleased with the king. Thus being questioned by the king, he said to him, please hear the topics attentively. And then Sri Shuka Vacha Yada tu Raja Svasutana Sadhun Pushnana Dharmena Vinashta Drishtihi Praturya Vishtasya Sutan Vibandhun Praveshya Laksha Bhavane Dadaha. Sri Shukadev Goswami said, King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. And thus he set fire to the lacquer house to burn his fatherless nephews, the Pandavas. So here, Shukadev Goswami is beginning to speak about King Dhritarashtra, and this is some of the lead up to the battle of Kurukshetra. And as we know, I know only very basics of the Mahabharata. Basically from reading Bhagavad Gita is about it, and hearing some classes. But, we know that the Kurus usurped this throne, the rightful throne from the Pandavas. This was their rightful kingdom to rule over the world, and they proceeded, headed by King Dhritarashtra, to attempt many different ways to kill the Pandavas and squash them out so that they could not challenge their authority and try to retake the throne. And here this is saying that King Dhritarashtra became blind under the influence of these impious desires to nourish his dishonest sons. His dishonest sons were, wanting this power and to take over the kingdom unfairly. And so he did such a horrible thing as setting fire to the house that the Pandavas were living in to try to burn them alive and kill them in that way. But, they escaped, and they, he tried to poison them, and they survived that. So many different things. I'm not aware of all the different ways they tried to kill them. But this was going on. And, King Dhritarashtra was actually physically blind as well. But Prabhupada's making the point here in the purport that this blindness of these impious activities and this spiritual blindness that King Dhritarashtra had is actually worse even than this physical blindness. Because physical blindness doesn't necessarily mean that you are going to not be able to make spiritual progress, is the purport here that Prabhupada is making, that physical blindness doesn't bar you from spiritual advancement. But this spiritual blindness is a rampant disease that is, especially in this Kali Yuga, is completely widespread, and nearly every single living entity is under the influence of this spiritual blindness nowadays. And so therefore, this is a much more rampant disease. It's not recognized as well. Everybody can recognize when there's a blind person, and you can see that, and they might have certain disabilities. They're not able to do certain things. They can't drive a vehicle. There's many different things that they're not able to do. But everyone in this world is running around with this spiritual blindness and causing so much mayhem, and nobody even recognizes that that is the case, that this spiritual blindness disease is so prevalent. Everyone thinks that simply following the dictations of their mind and the pull of their senses, this lust, anger, and greed, we can find some level of happiness, find true satisfaction. And the ultimate consensus these days is that live and let live, just whatever someone else believes or whatever they think will make them happy, let them do that as long as they're not hurting someone else. This is where the let live comes in. But, everybody can be whatever they want to be. They can be any gender they want to be. They can make up a new gender and be that. They can do as many drugs as they want because it's their own body. They can do whatever they want. If there's a baby within the womb of their body, they can kill that. That's fine because it's their body, their choice. Not to, even though that whole philosophy falls apart with letting live when you have a living entity within the womb that you're killing. But they don't consider that life. So just satisfy your senses to whatever extent you possibly can, and don't get in the way of other people's sense gratification. And in that way, everyone can be happy and live in this world peacefully. But we can see so obviously that this is not the case. We have wars going on. It's nonstop war after war after war. They had about 100 years ago now, a little over 100 years ago, there was World War I, the Great War, they called it. And there's this huge war, and if you read any of the descriptions of these battles, it's very harrowing. It's very disturbing, actually. They had just the brutality of that kind of warfare back then. It was the, I won't go into so much detail, but it was the transition from the pre-industrial age to the industrial age. So one side, Germany, had all these tanks and all these weapons, and then the other side, I think the French, I guess, had like horses and cavalry. So it was a very just like gruesome scene, and it's just like hand-to-hand combat. And after this war, so many people died. It was horrible, and then after this war, there was these pandemics that came and swept, and killed a bunch more people. And after this, the whole world came together and said, okay, no more of this war, no more of this horrible stuff. We're going to somehow come up with a way to stop this happening again. We're going to put these things in place. And then not even like 20 years later or whatever, it was, World War II came. And boom, there was, just as brutal, just as bad, just as widespread, huge war. And after that, they're like, okay, definitely no more wars. Like, guys, we have to do something about this. This is never going to happen again. And then right after that, the Vietnam War came, and then so many other wars. America's been involved in so many wars since then. The Cold War, even though it wasn't actually cold, there was so many proxy wars happening between the U.S. and the Soviet Union. And then, the war in Iraq. And now we have two wars, the war in Ukraine and Russia, and then this Israel-Palestine war. So this is just going on and on and on and on. And why is this happening? Like we said, that the philosophy nowadays is that just live and let live. Like, as long as we're just gratifying our own senses and not getting in the way of others' sense gratification, then we should all be happy and peaceful. But the problem comes is that one person's sense gratification is another person's impediment to sense gratification. So, Israel wants, I don't even actually really know the details of this war, but like, they want that land, I think. It's like they think that that's their land, and Palestine thinks that no, this is, this Jerusalem, I guess, is their holy place as well. So they're fighting over this land, and so not both of their senses can be gratified at the same time, and so it leads to this conflict. It leads to this war, and this is the nature of this material world. There's limited sense gratification, and there's unlimited desire for it. So it ends up being that human beings and living entities fight over their own share of it. So this will never lead to true happiness, and we see it here in this story of the Mahabharata. That King Dhritarashtra and the Kurus, they wanted the whole kingdom for themselves, and actually it came to a point where the Pandavas said, we'd be okay, if you just gave us like each one village. There's 5 of them, so just give us 5 villages to rule over. This is their dharma as kshatriyas, that they have to rule over something that this is, they can't go and work a job or something like that for a livelihood. Their livelihood is based on ruling over the people and taking that role of a king. So they had to do it in some capacity. Dharmically, and the Kuru said, no, we're not even going to give you that. We're not even going to give you some 5 small insignificant villages, even though it wouldn't have affected them in any way. It was simply because of their own lust, their own greed, and their own just blindness to that, because of this greed, that they refused and wouldn't even give them a little bit. You see it actually when you go on book distribution or whatever, specifically on book distribution. And there was this case maybe a few months ago where some devotees were in Miami, and one of our ideas with book distribution, and they displayed this back in the 70s with George Harrison, for example, that if you can approach someone that's very rich, or perhaps very rich and famous, this could be very good for the movement, to get them into Krishna consciousness, to give them some Prabhupada's books. You could maybe get a big donation because they have a bunch of money to give, right? There's so many billionaires now. Why don't we approach some of them and try to get, just $1 million from them or something? So this is a good idea, and it could work, in theory, and we're still going to try it. But what happened in Miami was the devotees went to this, what is it called? Not Star Island, but there's these certain islands in Miami. One is called Star Island, and then next to it there's some other ones. But this is where like the richest of the rich live. They have like these huge mansions, and it's like a private island basically. I don't even know how they got there. I don't know if you're supposed to like be there. It's like residential, but anyways, they somehow got there, and then they were walking around with books. And you would think, okay, these people have so much money, to them buying a Bhagavatam and giving maybe even like a silver donation, like 1,000, is nothing. Like, it's just nothing for them. And so they walked around there, it was a good idea, try to go get some, donations and distribute some books to these people that are rich and influential. Give them Prabhupada's books. But what they found after hours of doing this, not a single person took one book, not even a small book or anything. Because, again, this greed, it takes over the person. It takes over the consciousness to where you think, I've gotten all this material opulence, and I didn't get this by giving away all of my money. I got it by being greedy. And so they continue to be greedy. And the more and more they get, the more greedy they become. They're never satisfied. They're never completely satiated. It never leads to like a level of like, okay, well, I have 10 billion now. I'm good. Like, I'm going to retire. Actually, this is what everyone's idea is, that, I'll get, this certain amount of money. I have this goal. And once I get that, I'm going to just like quit whatever I'm doing for work. I'm just going to retire and do whatever, paint or something like that. So many people have this idea. But then when you get into the situation, you now have a huge mortgage because you have a $20 million home. You have, a garage full of, very expensive cars. You have a wife and kids that are used to a certain level of lifestyle, a certain standard of living, you could say, that is just so like extremely opulent, that you become completely entangled in this, and you want to keep doing it. You want to keep getting more and more because you get a taste for it, and it feels like, if I get some more, then I'll be happy. Just a little bit more. There's this Rockefeller, I believe it was, that a billionaire, I don't know if they even had billionaires back then. He was a super rich, guy back in the 20th century, entrepreneur. I don't even know what he did, what kind of his business was, maybe railroads or something like that. But he was asked, how much money is enough? And he said, just a little bit more. So this is the mindset of these people, it's complete madness, actually. It's very similar to like a drug addict, that they think, if I just get that next hit, like, a heroin addict thinks if I just get a little bit more heroin, then I'll be good, then I'll be happy. And they're just always chasing after it. They get it, and then they want more. They get it, then they want more. So this is, spoken of in the Bhagavad Gita. What is this verse? It's in the 16th chapter, I believe, of like, he's my enemy and I've killed him. What is that? Yeah, let me see. Yeah, okay. Anyways, 16, 11, and 12. I'll just read the translation here. But this isn't exactly what I was saying, but this works too. Or I'll even start at number 10. So, taking shelter of insatiable lust and absorbed in the conceit of pride and false prestige, the demoniac, thus illusioned, are always sworn to unclean work, attracted by the impermanent. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human life, of human civilization. Oh, next one. I just read that next one. They believe that to gratify the senses is the prime necessity of human civilization. Thus, until the end of their life, their anxiety is immeasurable. Bound by a network of hundreds of thousands of desires and absorbed in lust and anger, they secure money by illegal means for sense gratification. Okay, and then this next one. Here we go. The demoniac person thinks, so much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more. So much wealth do I have today, and I will gain more according to my schemes. So much is mine now, and it will increase in the future more and more. He is my enemy, and I have killed him, and my other enemies will also be killed. I am the Lord of everything. I am the enjoyer. I am perfect, powerful, and happy. I am the richest man, surrounded by aristocratic relatives. There is none so powerful and happy as I am. I shall perform sacrifices. I shall give some charity, and thus I shall rejoice. In this way, such persons are deluded by ignorance. This is exactly what I'm speaking of. This is the prevalent attitude in society today. And people think this way, and then they still think, oh, well, we can still have peace in this world. We can have, no more wars. We can have, all this, everyone can live together in happiness, and we can all gratify our senses and all, get enough sense gratification to be happy. But not even one person can get enough sense gratification to be happy. Not even a single person in this entire world can do it. Not, this Elon Musk, the richest man in the world, he still can't get complete happiness. He can't get satisfaction. So it's a complete illusion. It's complete madness that people are living like in this way. I was just thinking about this idea, just like thinking about, because, we see someone that's materially blind, their eyes don't work, and like Janardhan Krishna Prabhu was saying yesterday that they have like this long cane and they're, walking like this. This is how they can see, and, they're crossing the street, they have like, I think that might be why they have these little bumps on the sidewalk, like when you go, so they can see, okay, I'm about to go into the street, so they don't walk into the street. And then they hear like the crosswalk makes a sound and okay, they can cross. But he was saying, if you were blind, it would be so scary. Like if I was blind, like you'd be always worried about like what's happening, but somehow they get used to it. But, if everyone was walking around in this way, it would be a very scary situation. If everyone was driving blind, just like not being able to see other cars and just going through life, there would be so many people just dying all the time. It'd be really crazy. But, we say that that's a really scary situation, but everybody is blind spiritually, so it's a much scarier situation. Everyone is doing all these, committing all these sinful activities, going straight to a hellish condition of life, like on turbo mode, just in the HOV lane, going to hellish condition of life, and they don't even realize it. They're completely blind to that fact. And they're bringing others with them. Everyone's leading each other to this fate. The influencers online and these celebrities and all these people, they're saying that, even if they're not explicitly saying it, what they're saying through their actions and through their existence is that this is the key to happiness. What I have, you should chase after this. And many do say it explicitly that they try to sell them something. They try to sell them an idea of, you can make so much money if you do this. You can get beautiful women if you do like what I'm doing. And so everyone's chasing after that, and it becomes just the blind leading the blind, as it's said so many times. These blind men leading others, and they fall into a blind well and into a ditch, and just completely suffer in that situation. So it's a very scary situation and a dangerous situation with these blind leading the blind in this spiritual blindness. And again, back to this verse, because King Dhritarashtra was spiritually blind. What happened? He was so attached to his sons and to what they wanted that these impious sons, they led him down this path of committing such horrible acts as trying to kill his own nephews, and his very, very pious, saintly nephews that were, as we know, they're pure devotees of the Lord. So, committing such heinous acts. So because of his attachment to family life, because he wanted to see his own sons being in charge and, ruling over the kingdom, he was driven to such horrible acts, and we can think that I would never do something like that. I would never try to kill my own family members. I wouldn't be controlled by lust like that. But we don't really know until we're in that kind of situation. You don't know how deep this lust goes, how deeply rooted it is within our hearts. This saying that's used, it's a cliche that absolute power corrupts absolutely. And it's very true. You see it so many times, this, just take like one example is like Hitler. He came into power and he had this plan already, I'm sure, to kill all these people. But because he got the power to do it, he was able to just go crazy and just, do whatever he wanted, kill as many people as he wanted. You see in like the Catholic Church, all this scandals of like child molestation and such, they have the power over these children, and they have the power to say that they're the representative of God, and therefore they're able to do such heinous acts. So this power is something to be actually very cautious of. Some people, in society have to have a level of power, of course, and control, but these people, as we learn from Bhagavatam and Shastra, that these people should be very saintly, pious, ideal people that are actually seeing themselves as a servant of the people, and ultimately a servant of Krishna. We see with Maharaj Prithu, I just read through this part of the Bhagavatam that, he was a very ideal king because he came and he was simply serving the people and seeing himself as a servant of Krishna. And his service was to take care of the citizens and help them in spiritual life, help them advance spiritually. And so he one of the duties is to get rid of, people that are committing sinful activities like thieves and all this such thing, and punish those people. And, to establish and protect the citizens and allow them to go on with their life and engage in devotional service. So, and the king, ideally, the ideal king doesn't see themselves as the one in power, the one in control. They see themselves as simply a representative of the Supreme Lord, and that they're simply executing the will of the Supreme Lord and establishing the correct principles of, again, devotional service, of Varnashram, and helping everyone live in harmony in this way. Letting everyone work according to their propensities and contribute in the different varnas in whatever way that they are naturally inclined to and naturally have the propensity for. But when a king comes in with the idea of trying to gain power, trying to gain prestige, and has this lust in their heart, and they're not a devotee of the Lord, they're not on this pure devotional platform, so much horrible things come about. We see another example of a pious king in the Bhagavatam is Maharaj Parikshit himself. That he was protecting Dharma from this personality of Kali, the personification of Kali. But this ultimately this idea of I and mine, this idea of my sons, my family, all this misconceptions that we understand through studying Bhagavad Gita. We're not this body, we're the spirit soul, but by becoming attached to this body and attached to the bodily relationships, King Dhritarashtra was misled in this way, and so many are misled. They think this is my country, therefore I have to fight that country, and go to war with them. They think this is my family, I have to protect it, and of course we do protect our family, but they become so attached and they want to do everything to gratify the senses of their own kind, and they're willing to do anything to do that, even to kill others in the process. And like I was saying earlier, another example of this, going really crazy and just over the top is when these lusty desires completely take over. The main reason for murder in this day and age, outside of like war, of course, is that usually what happens is a scorned lover or something like that. Like there's a famous one, O.J. Simpson. I don't know if everybody knows about that. Like this is back in the 90s, I think it was. He's a famous football player, and he was married to I don't know if she was a model or something, some beautiful woman, and then she went off and had an affair with someone else, and he got acquitted of it, so because the glove didn't fit. So technically he was found not guilty, but pretty much everyone agrees and understands that he went and murdered his wife and her lover, and because of this anger, this lust, and this attachment that he had, and so this is one case of that, but it happens so often. It happens almost every day, and it was seen as such such an abominable act, and wow, how could someone do that? But it happens so many times, with non-famous people, and it just kind of gets ignored or swept under the rug, or oh yeah, that happens all the time. This is the number one cause of murder, is this murdering someone that you actually love. I was just hearing this story. This is really crazy. This I think it was in India that some man and wife were married, and they were just, normal people, pious people even, just had a normal life. And then the man and the wife, they didn't fight, they didn't really argue, they didn't have, they had a good relationship. And then one day, for some reason, the man just took a hammer and just hit her on the head, killed her. And then he was asked, like, why? He didn't know why. He's like, I don't know why I did this. I don't really understand what happened. But it's, again, this anger, this kama esha, krodha esha, this is spoken of very specifically in the Bhagavatam. Like, we don't know why we're impelled to these sinful activities. But, Arjuna asked this very question to Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita at the very beginning. He says, why are we impelled to these sinful activities, even against our own will, seemingly? We don't want to do this. We don't want to engage in, all these sinful activities. Why are we doing it? And, Krishna says, kama esha, krodha esha. It's lust only, which leads to this anger. It's just lust. It's simply lust from the very beginning. And we can also learn from the Bhagavatam this indriyani manaf prana atma dharma drutir matihi hrishish tejas mati satyam yasya nashanti janmana, that from the very beginning is because of lusty desires from the beginning of one's birth, very since birth. We're born with these desires because we have them from previous births, and we keep going and going and going and cultivating them more and more and more. Because of these lusty desires, all of these good qualities are destroyed. So the intelligence, the mind, shyness, strength, what else is it? Prana, like the life, just the very life, all of these amazing things that are necessary for self-realization, that are necessary for finding real happiness in life, controlling the mind, controlling the senses, having strength, having, just patience. This is another thing that's destroyed. All of these things are destroyed because of this lust from the beginning of birth. So this is actually the greatest enemy of the living entity, this lust. And the only possible way to overcome it is, as we know, the process of Krishna consciousness. Let me see. Yeah, of course, the process of Krishna consciousness. And, this blindness is, basically compared to this lust. This lust is a form of blindness. This is the spiritual blindness. This is what covers over our true position as, servants of Krishna, spirit souls that are completely lost in this world and not able to find happiness. This lust completely covers us over and convinces us that we can find happiness. We can become, satisfied in this world. And even, you see, so many times, even after coming to devotional service, even after coming to Krishna consciousness, it can still come back and take over. This is said, what is this verse where it's saying that, anyways, I think I wrote it down, but the mind, senses, and then, above that is the self, but it also could be. Yeah. What is that? Do you know the verse number?
Third chapter. I think it's
Yeah. Let me see if I wrote it down.
35, 40 something.
Oh, okay. 342. Can you put it up, Mason? 342. So, okay. Indriyani paranyahor indriyebhyaf param manaha manasastu parabudhir yo budef tastu saha. The working senses are superior to dull matter. Mind is higher than the senses. Intelligence is still higher than the mind, and he, the soul, is even higher than the intelligence. But the acharyas also say that, so this he, the soul, in brackets there, could also mean, instead of the soul, it could mean lust. So even lust, is higher than all these things. It can completely take over. And like I was saying, even you see so many times people are, devotees practicing for many, many years or even, and all of a sudden one little situation comes up. It could be very small, very subtle. And the opportunity for fulfilling a lusty desire might come about, or that lust can just, it's dormant within the heart. It's always dormant within the heart for this whole time. But finally, this situation where it can fructify and lead to action comes about. And again, even if it's completely against the will of the person, that's going through this, they know the principles of Krishna consciousness, they've taken initiation, they want to follow their vows, they, are determined to do it, but still the situation could come about where they're completely bewildered and overwhelmed. And I was hearing my Guru Maharaj say this, that at that point, when the lust takes over, it's almost like it's just you're lost, like it's over. Like, as soon as that gets going, it gets completely out of hand. And next thing you know, you don't know what you're doing, you don't know why you're doing it, and it's just happening, and it's completely taken over your whole consciousness, your whole, all of your, again, this, like I've said before, all these good qualities are destroyed because of this. And it's almost as if, like Arjuna is saying, it's going on against your own will. So the next verse you can go to here in the Bhagavad Gita. This is how we can conquer this enemy of lust. So, evam budhe param budva samstabhyat manamatmana jahishatra mahabaho kamarupam darasanam. So, thus knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, O mighty armed Arjuna, one should steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence, Krishna consciousness, and thus by spiritual strength conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So, here we go. Knowing oneself to be transcendental to the material senses, mind, and intelligence, and steadying the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. So, you could read this and think, okay, well, if I just know that I'm not the senses, I'm not the mind, and I'm not the intelligence, I'm the spirit soul. Okay, I know that. Cool. And then steady the mind by deliberate spiritual intelligence. Okay, chant Hare Krishna. That's good. By this spiritual strength, you can conquer this insatiable enemy known as lust. So this can be easily interpreted or seen for the beginning devotee that might just be say you're reading Bhagavad Gita and not reading the purports or something like that. And you just read through that verse, you just open up Bhagavad Gita and you just read that. Okay, well, I just have to do it, just know that I'm not the body, not the senses, and just steady my mind with Krishna consciousness. Okay, that seems pretty straightforward. But what it's not... what most people don't understand, or the neophyte might not understand, is that this isn't through our own strength. This isn't something that we do. This isn't something that okay, well, as long as I just do this and know this, then I'll be good. Because again, like I said, this lust is deeply rooted within the heart, and it can come out at any moment. So if we're not in a situation where we're taking guidance from senior devotees, we're taking guidance from our spiritual master, and we're surrendered to them, under all circumstances, then these situations are bound to crop up where this lust is able to act and to take over. So actually it's a process of, but this process of steadying the mind by spiritual intelligence is actually the process of surrendering to Krishna and to the spiritual master. This is how we steady our mind. Not that we, again, through our own strength, our own power can do it. I've experienced this practically, before I joined here. I was trying to wake up early and chant Hare Krishna and do all these things. I had all these wrong ideas. I wasn't reading Prabhupada's books, but I knew, okay, I need to wake up early. I need to follow these certain regular principles. I need to, chant Hare Krishna early in the morning. And so I was trying that for some time. And on my own strength, I made it about 2 months. And I was waking up at, I think, 4:30 and chanting 10 rounds. And I was feeling really good. Okay, this is great. This is really working. I know that, okay, this process is the real deal. I'm just going to keep doing this. And then, one thing crops up. You start associating with the wrong person, wrong people. And then all of the previous desires that you had that you didn't, get over. Of course, we're not over our material desires, even after years of doing Krishna consciousness. All of these things just came back in like a wave and just washed me away. And, that entire discipline that I had was just kind of destroyed. And, I woke up a little bit later, chanted a little bit less. And then eventually it was just all gone. All that progress was completely wiped away. So we can understand that it's very important to approach this process in the association of devotees. This is actually the most important part, is being around others that are practicing, others that are more, experienced than us, can point out our mistakes and the different pitfalls that are common, and be able to even see, oh, look, you're headed towards a pit, you need to stop, you need to turn this way and change this attitude, change this behavior, change this mindset. And ultimately, it's the spiritual master that leads us out of this darkness, this blindness. It's spoken of so many times. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshru Unmilitam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha, that offering my obeisances to my spiritual master who's opened my eye, my darkened eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. And then this Chakudan Dilo Jay, we say every day. This, again, same thing, that the spiritual master has opened up my darkened eyes. And this avidya vinasayate, that he destroys the ignorance, this avidya, he destroys it with this torchlight of knowledge. So, we have to turn to the light of the spiritual master, the light of the Bhagavatam. There's this really nice painting. I don't have it pulled up or anything, but you can look it up later. Maybe this, where you can see the material world and all these people, and there's people getting drunk or whatever, and it's very dark. And then you can see up above is Krishna, and then there's a devotee, a spiritual master, I guess, holding up. You can see he's holding up the Shastra, and the Shastra is spreading this ray of light down. And then you can see in this dark world, there's some of the people are in this light. They're not in the shadow. They're seeing this light and they're looking up. They can see the spiritual master. They can see Krishna, and so they're drawn to that. This light is shown, and they're being able to see that they're in the darkness, because they can contrast it with this light, and they're able to aim for something higher. Aim for the purpose of life. So most people, again, like I said, they're spiritually blind. They're in this shadow that's in the painting. They're going through all of these, sinful activities and birth, death, old age, disease. They don't even realize it. They're completely content with, whatever horrible situation they're in. Even the cockroach doesn't want to lose its life. It's happy in its body, and if you go to kill it, it'll run away. It doesn't want to lose its body, but to us, we say, you're just a cockroach. Why do you care? What's the use of your life? Similarly, we're in a similar situation, but we do have the boon of the human form of life. We have the ability to make advancement in Krishna consciousness. We have the ability to surrender to a spiritual master, to chant Hare Krishna, to understand and learn from the Shastra. So this is a very rare opportunity. But ultimately, without this endeavor, our life is no better than that of just, a germ or a cockroach or something like that, if we're not making progress, because it's just one more step in this step of, tens of millions of births and deaths that we're taking. So it's such a waste, it's such a lost opportunity if one doesn't take this up. And this blindness, another aspect of it that I've been thinking about is that you see, when we go out to preach and we try to convince people of Krishna consciousness, convince people of the philosophy of this, and get them to chant, get them to take up the process and take it seriously and say, your human life is rare, you need to take this up, all of these things, that we repeat every day, and we, the genuine people, the sincere people that come here and stay here, that we take it seriously, we try to sincerely imbibe these principles that, human life is rare. I want to meditate upon that and actually act with that in mind, all of these things that we find it very difficult to convince people that are in this blindness of spiritual blindness, this ignorance of this darkness of ignorance, that think that they're, again, chasing after sense gratification. They think that'll make them happy. And they're so conditioned in this way that when someone tells them, no, that's not going to make you happy, you need to inquire about the absolute truth, all these things, they're so just covered over that it's almost like talking to or trying to shake like a sleeping person. It's you have to really and they just won't wake up. They won't wake up. They're in a coma or something. So you want to like slap them and just shake them and just like throw them in a pool of water or something. Try to wake them up. But so many times, they hear the philosophy, they agree with everything we say. Okay, everything you're saying makes complete sense. They chant, okay, this is cool, like, I like this. They hear the kirtan, they take prasadam, okay, this prasadam's good. But then after all of that, they still, that's okay, I'm good. Like they come here and they even spend some days here, and then, they leave and they live, far away, so that, okay, granted they can't come here every week or anything like that, we don't expect that, but at least let us connect you with like your local ISKCON and like go to see devotees there, like if, you've liked this process so far, you only just started it, but you so far you like it, right? Like, and you're getting some benefit out of it, and you're again understanding the philosophy a bit, you're agreeing with it, but just so good, just go visit your local ISKCON, see the devotees there, take prasadam, you can chant, a couple rounds a day, try to do that, and they said, no, I'm good, I'm okay. And it's just it's really disappointing. It's really like sad because they're just like, I'm okay with my, blindness, I don't want to be cured of blindness, actually. I'm good. And a lot of times, this is the comparison of the ostrich that sticks its head in the ground when it's whenever the predator's coming to kill it. The ostrich is kind of bird with a long neck, and it's running away from the predator, and as soon as it realizes, oh, I'm not going to make it out, it just sticks its head in the dirt. So it doesn't have to see what's about to happen. So this is kind of the situation that these people are in, unfortunately, that, they've, maybe before they met us, they were in a blissful ignorance, you could say. They were just going through life, not thinking about death so much, not thinking about the problems of life, that, this world is temporary and miserable. But as soon as they talk to us and meet us, we're very blunt about it. We're up front with them, telling them this is how it is, and they agree. Okay, like, you're right, I wasn't thinking about this so much, but now I am. And then, even despite that, knowing that, they just choose to stick their head in the dirt and kind of ignore it, and, the impending disaster that's coming their way. So it's very unfortunate, but, at least we can rest assured knowing that they've gotten Prabhupada's books, they got prasadam, they got the holy name, so they're making some level of progress. There's no loss or diminution on this path. So, any level of progress they can make is really good. But of course, we want people to take it seriously and actually fully take to this process, fully, commit themselves to Krishna consciousness and become completely convinced of the philosophy and ask all their questions, get all their doubts dispelled, and see the urgency of this process. We want people to see the urgency. So that's one of our big kind of questions and kind of pursuits in the preaching work that we've been doing lately at the colleges is how do we convince them that this is the right thing to do, and then show them how urgent it is, that they need to take it up right now and not wait. And so, this idea of gratifying our senses and this lust that's overcoming all of us in this material world, it's a very, again, it's compared to darkness, it's a very bad place to be when you're completely consumed by lust. And we learn from the Chaitanya Charitamrita, this Atmendriya Priti Vancha Tari Balikam, Krishnendriya Priti Chet Dhare Premanam, that the desire to simply satisfy our own senses is known as lust, kama, and the desire to satisfy the senses of Krishna is known as love, prema. So it's not that we don't have any desires, not that we completely squash all of our desires and live, just like a soulless existence with nothing within our heart, no feelings within our heart, no desires to do anything or achieve anything or anything like that. But, we simply replace these lusty desires that we recognize, are leading us down the wrong path, leading us to this repeated birth and death. We replace those with spiritual desires, and in the form of the replacing all of our own personal desires with the desire of the spiritual master and the desire of Krishna. And so, it might seem like a loss for someone that, again, has so many material desires. They want to get a nice job or whatever, nice family, and want to do something in the world with their life, build a big business, whatever they want to do. It might seem like some kind of loss, like, oh, I have to give up all of that, and like I have to just like have the desires of someone else that I don't understand what these are. But actually, when you get into it, you realize that having these desires, replacing your desires with the desires of the spiritual master is very blissful, because again, the desires of the spiritual master are equal to the desires of Krishna. And by pleasing Krishna, you can actually feel real happiness. And everyone that's distributed books can understand that. Everyone can feel that. You distribute even just a few books, and you can feel real happiness that this person is getting Prabhupada's books, and they're getting, this key to finding real happiness in life. They're getting this key to get out of the cycle of birth and death. They've taken the first step on their path to Krishna consciousness. And now, at this point, there's no stopping that train. The train has left the station, and it's going to reach its destination at some point or another. So people think that they're losing so much by giving up their material desires and trying to take on the spiritual master's desires. But practically we can understand through experiencing it that this is the real happiness. This is real bliss. And then all of our own desires are also fulfilled in Krishna consciousness, as long as they're spiritual desires. Like we want to do some kind of service. We want to as we see in the amazing example of Mahotsa Prabhu, that he has such a strong desire to keep breaking his world record, to keep doing more and more books, and to satisfy his spiritual master in the process. And because he has that so strongly, even though I'll be the first to admit, when he was saying, oh, I'm going to break the world record just with doing Western Bhagavatams, I was like, how? Like, because before, when he first said that, I think he had done maybe 5 or something, like maximum he had done was 5 in a day. And he wanted to do over 50. And I was like, how? Like, that's crazy, like, what are you going to do? And then for a long time, it seemed like a struggle, like there's a lot of just, disappointment, I guess you could say, or like, oh man, it wasn't going up for a while. It was almost a year that he was still maybe around 10 was his max. And then a couple months ago, he did 12 in Miami, I think it was. Or was it 12 or 15? 16, yeah, with Mason. So, and then we saw that, we're like, wow, it's 16 Western Bhagavatams. It's so amazing. We were really that was so, he smashed his previous record. I think he did less than 8 or something before that. So we were like, wow, this is awesome, okay, new standard, 16, he must have figured out some new, technique or whatever it is, and then, so, okay, 16, cool. And then literally a week later, he did 30, and we're like, what, that's crazy. I was like, okay, surely, that's the limit for now, maybe it'll be 6 more months, and then or a year, and then he'll do a little bit more, 32 or 35 or something, but then maybe he'll do 20 now on a regular basis. But then literally a couple weeks later, he just did 55. He almost doubled that again. So he doubled the 16, or he doubled 8. That was his previous record. Then he 5. Yeah, 5 to 8, 8 to 16, 16 to 30, now 30 to almost 60, 55. So next time he's going to have to do 120. So it's really crazy. Wow, it's all because of, and he talks about it so much, it's because of his desire to fulfill the desire of his spiritual master and Srila Prabhupada. And because it's so strong, it overcomes any kind of material obstacle. It overcomes any kind of, he cuts through this, like I was saying, that these people are covered over so much that they don't want to take up Krishna consciousness. His desire is so strong, it completely cuts through that whole layer of these people. And, it's hard enough to make an Indian person take the Bhagavatam home, even if they give you money, even if they give you 308. It's so hard still sometimes to actually have them take the books. They don't want to take. No, I can't take it. I won't respect it. They eat meat. I eat meat in my house. I don't want to take. This is very holy book. I won't be able to take proper care of it. All these things, and the Americans don't have the conception of having to take care of a holy book or anything like that, but. Still, so many, people, oh, I don't have room in my house for this, what am I going to do with all these books? This is too much. But still, he's able to somehow cut through all of that. And, the main thing people say is that they won't be able to read it all. And somehow he convinces them, take the whole thing. And it's such a big set of books. It does seem very overwhelming to read it all. And for someone that's never even heard of Krishna, never even heard of Bhagavatam, obviously, never maybe even heard of Bhagavad Gita, to take the whole Bhagavatam the first time they meet Mahotsa Prabhu and just give him their hard-earned money. And it's just really a testament to the fact of the power of the desire of the spiritual master. And then you see, how blissed out Mahotsa Prabhu is, how he's so happy that this is happening, and he stays completely so humble and, gives all the credit to his spiritual master, and he doesn't become puffed up, even though he's doing something so amazing, so world-changing. He's doing one of the most amazing things the world has ever seen, actually. So, this is just an amazing example of someone taking on the desire of their spiritual master and replacing all of their, material desires, just doing away with those, forgetting about all those material aspirations they had in life. Everybody that came here, I'm sure, had some kind of idea of wanting something in material life before they came here. Nobody was just like doing nothing and just like, oh, I'm just going to float by through life and just, do the bare minimum. Most of us were like, kind of go-getters and, trying to do good things. A lot of us, a lot of the devotees went to like really good schools and like had really good jobs and all these things. I didn't do that, but anyways, I thought I was ambitious materially, even though I wasn't so successful in that way. But we all had so many desires, but coming here, you can actually dovetail those with the desires of Krishna and the desires of our spiritual master and find true satisfaction. So this is ultimately the way out of this whole problem of this lust taking over. It's not, like I was saying before, it's not through our own power, it's not through our own strength. It's not that we simply go on our own and practice Krishna consciousness and chant Hare Krishna on our own by ourselves somewhere and keep all of these other desires within our heart. Chant Hare Krishna for an hour a day and then satisfy your material desires for the other 23 hours. It's a complete transformation of consciousness, a complete transformation of our lifestyle. Everything from the way we eat, the way we sleep, everything we're doing is completely transformed. Now, used to just to shower. Now we shower in order to cleanse ourselves so that we can come up and, be presentable to the Lord in the morning for Mangal Arti. We want to, be presentable in that way. So everything we're doing is related to Krishna in some way, and our entire lifestyle is completely changed in this way, and we're in the association of devotees, and they're able to, again, point out all our things. So the point is that, we have to completely change all of our desires from material to spiritual, and in this way, this is the only way we can become actually satisfied, actually happy. And we see the example with so many devotees that have done such things. That's all I had to say about that. If there's any comments, questions, or corrections, please, I'll take them now.
So, what would you answer if someone argues that rich people not taking books is a sign of them being satisfied? Because that's what they say, I'm happy and I don't need this. It's like...
Yeah.
What would you say? Is that, how would you...
How would you... Okay, like they might be somewhat materially satisfied, but being a miser isn't so good. But ultimately, okay, you might have some level of.
They'll say that I'm not being a miser. It's just like you're giving this for me. I'll donate to feed poor children. But
Again, they're covered up by this ignorance. They don't know their situation, actually. They don't know the reality of their situation. They might know it deep down, but they're in denial about it many times. You might have a good situation now, but it's temporary. This world is temporary and full of miseries. You have a nice situation you've created artificially for yourself. That's good, that's fine. But it's actually, you're an illusion. You're in this dream. You think that, oh, this is all nice. My family's nice. My house is nice. I got a nice bank account. Good for you, but death's going to come at any moment. Again, it's this story that Parameshwar Prabhu was relating, that we sign this contract, right? This idea of, okay, you can have this really nice house, beautiful wife, amazing kids, everything is great in your life, but this is all free. You can have it. But the only condition is I can come at any moment. It might be 2 hours from now. It might be 20 years. It might be 50 years from now. We don't know. You don't know when, but I'm going to come and I'm going to kill you. And so just you sign this, you get all that stuff, but that's the one condition. But it'll definitely happen. It's not that maybe I'll come kill you. Definitely it'll happen at some point, but you just don't know when. So this is the contract that you're signing, and you don't realize it. You're an illusion, and you can cover it up with all these material opulences, cover it up, with this nice, whatever, have everything so nicely situated, but you can't escape birth, death, old age, disease. You can't. You're aging right now, If you're that rich, you're probably, already like in your 40s or 50s. So you already feel the pangs of old age a little bit. Your body's aging. You're not like you were when you were young. So what happened there,
So what if I argue? Like, for instance, like these people, these cell phone tower people, the way they write the lease, and of course we don't own that small piece of land, but the way they write the lease is that the lease is dictated by the tenant. It can only be terminated if the tenant agrees to do so. Even when the lease expires, it's the tenant has the option to extend it or not the landowner. The tenant only has to pay money, which is the cell phone company only pays money.
Oh, yeah.
So practically they've given the land. T-Mobile or whichever cell phone company got, they've practically obtained the land without paying for it. I mean, like without buying it, instead of buying it.
Yeah.
They obtained the land by giving some money. But they're in desperation of money, so they take such a horrible contract. Second is, they also think that, well, most of the time these cell phone companies are going to be there for like so many years, so I'm going to get money for so many years. And it's worth it. So if somebody says, well, yeah, you say death is coming, but look at the majority of people, they live at least for 60, 70 years, 80 years, so I'll do it.
Yeah, I mean, that's just not very intelligent, because it's okay, like 60, 70 years, but what do people say at the end of their life a lot of time? Life is so short. Wow, it flew by. Like I can't believe my life is over. So many old people say this. It happens so quick, actually. It's going by right now so quick. I can't believe I'm, already 30. Like, it's like, dang. My whole 20s gone. And so, and also, I mean, anyways, this is not like exactly a counter argument to what you're saying, but the longer you go in life, the faster it goes. Like, because 1 year becomes only 1/30th of your life, and then it becomes only 1/50th of your life. So actually your perception of time speeds up.
Oh,
So-
because of how much is remaining?
Yeah, because you've already been like alive for 50 years. So like 1 year is a very small sliver of your life. And so it's like, just 1 year. Whereas when you're like 5 years old, 1 year feels like so long, Like the summer, after school feels like so long. But now like a summer goes by just like anything. So this happens. But I mean, again, it's like, okay, but like, even if it was for like 20 million years, it's still like, it's temporary. Like, you're attached to these things that are temporary, and when you lose them, you're going to be miserable. It's just a fact. Like, you look at anything that you're, attached to, and then you lose, you're not happy about it, right? Like, a business deal or whatever, or like, a lot of people now have dogs. That's a big one. Is like, and that's like guarantee that you're gonna like see them die, basically. Like, as long as you like live like a normal life, you're gonna like get attached to this dog, and then it's gonna get old, and in like 10 years, and then it'll die. Like, so, and then it's like sad. Like, you don't like that, but then they get another dog after that, because they don't learn their lesson. So it's like, anyone can agree that losing something they love is not a pleasant thing, and so eventually you're gonna have to lose it.
1 second. You're not. Just hold on. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're done with your comment?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, 1 second. Yes, Chandanacharya Prabhu.
Yes, sir. So one thing that, like, I mean, we get this all the time when you're especially preaching to young people. And one thing is like, one thing that's seen in society and in general is when someone doesn't have a solution, they have to make up like some flowery thing to kind of feel okay. Like, when you just don't have a solution to something, you just have to accept it and then somehow go on in life. So the fact that they see birth, death, old age, and disease as a big problem, but they don't have a solution. So then they have to make up all of these ideas that I am happy, that I'm all of this. And so they can't even think about death. Even when they think about it, they have to ignore it. And they, sometimes you don't think death is suffering. They say, no, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Such illusion. But that's because they don't have a solution. And so they have to add some flowery language and make it feel okay. Because if it did feel okay, then how would you live life? How could you live life knowing that death is coming for you? Like everything is going to be taken away from you. This is it actually hurts the heart a lot when one actually meditates upon this a lot. So then they come up with all of these solutions. But we have a solution. And so it's for us, we accept death. And death is there, old age is there, disease is there, and we're not depressed about it. We're ecstatic in life and going on. So the main point I make to these people is you don't have a solution, therefore you have to, bury your head on the ground like the ostrich, because you don't know what to do. You have no idea where to go and how to solve the solution. So you just have to think that everything is okay.
Jai, that's nice. That's great point.
Another point is that, people think, oh, well, there is no solution to death. They're very sure of that, They say, well, yeah, death is there, but there's nothing I can do about it. That's a reality of life, they say. That's a fact of life. So many people have this idea. But how do they know? How do they know for sure that there's no solution to death, no cure for death? How do they know that there's not a place they can go where they don't have to die? I was hearing my Guru Maharaj mention that in a lecture. How do they know for certain,
Yeah. I wanted to read a quote from the 5th canto on this regard.
No, amazing. Turn the camera.
Let's see. This is from the description of the hellish planets, but the purport's really nice also. One who in this world or this life is very proud of his wealth always thinks, I am so rich, who can equal me? His vision is twisted and he's always afraid that someone will take his wealth. Indeed, he suspects his superiors. His face and heart dry up at the thought of losing his wealth, and therefore he always looks like a wretched fiend. Is that how you pronounce that?
Fiend.
Fiend, okay. Wretched fiend. He is not in any way able to obtain actual happiness, and he does not know what it is to be free from anxiety. They've accepted that anxiety as happiness. They don't know what it is to be free of it. It's amazing. This verse is really amazing. Because of the sinful things he does to earn money, augment his wealth, and protect it, he's put in a hell called Suchi Mukha, where the officials of Yamaraj punish him by stitching thread throughout his entire body like weavers manufacturing cloth. Purport: when one possesses more wealth than necessary, he certainly becomes very proud. This is the situation of men in modern civilization. According to the Vedic culture, Brahmanas do not possess anything, whereas Kshatriyas possess riches, but only for performing sacrifices and other noble activities as prescribed in the Vedic injunctions. A Vaishya also earns money honestly through agriculture, cow protection, and some trade. If a Shudra gets money, however, he will spend it lavishly without discrimination or simply accumulate it for no purpose. Because in this age there are no qualified Brahmana, Kshatriyas or Vaishyas, almost everyone is a Shudra. Kalau Shudra Sambhavaha. Therefore, the Shudra mentality is causing great harm to modern civilization. A Shudra does not know how to use money to render transcendental service to the Lord. Money is also called Lakshmi. Lakshmi is always engaged in the service of Narayana. Wherever there is money, it must be engaged in the service of Lord Narayan. Everyone should use his money to spread the great transcendental movement of Krishna consciousness. If one does not spend money for this purpose but accumulates more than necessary, he will certainly become proud of the money he illegally possesses. Even though he, according to people today, you earned it, I earned it, it's my salary, la la la. The money actually belongs to Krishna, who says in Bhagavad Gita, Bhoktaram yagya tapasam sarva loka maheshwaram. I am the true enjoyer of sacrifices and penances, and I am the owner of all the planets. Therefore, nothing belongs to anyone but Krishna. Something's strange here. What happened?
It's because of the spacing that happens.
Oh, really? So, what, reduce the font size? Wait.
Yeah, you got it. That's one.
One who possesses more money than he needs should spend it for Krishna. Unless one does so, he will become puffed up because of his false possessions, and therefore he will be punished in the next life as described herein.
Wow, that's amazing. That reminds me actually before I joined, like a year before I joined, I was gambling. That's how I was making my living, and then like the anxiety explaining is so accurate. Like when you're doing that for like to make money, it's like you're always worried about like how like your stocks are doing and like, oh, it lost money, oh no, like what am I gonna do? And then like you're always like even when you go to sleep at night, you're like thinking like, oh, like I should like stay up so I could like make sure that this and that, and oh, I might miss this, and it's complete hell. Like it's terrible. I remember that very clearly. But you think you're enjoying, actually. You think, oh, I'm making so much money, this is very nice.
And the point Chandan was making is really nice, because we have a solution. People say, oh, you're so pessimistic or something like that, but we're not, because we're chanting, dancing, feasting, But we don't ignore. We completely accept. In fact, we analyze the nature of birth, death, old age, and disease. But we're not depressed. But they don't analyze. They have no clue.
Yeah.
In fact, we are very optimistic because we have a solution.
Mm-hmm.
You're not pessimistic because you're a fool, because you don't have a solution. You think there is no solution, and it's really dumb,
Yeah.
So it's a very great point. Yeah.
Yeah. Koki Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Just to kind of carry on that with the whole rich train, there's a story that one Srila Prabhupada disciple tells. You probably know this one, but Prabhupada was like asking like his disciples like, like how do you like preach to like a rich man or something, and then they were giving different ideas like, oh, like we would like make them a life member, or we would give them your books and things like that. And Prabhupada said that you go and you tell them that he's a thief because he's stolen all his money for Krishna like that, and they were like shocked. Like Prabhupada was set like to preach to them in that way.
Wow.
Yeah, that's a memory.
Oh.
I don't know who said that. I heard it recently.
Oh, okay.
I was pretty surprised.
Never find the reference for it.
I could probably find it because it's all those things are on database. Another thing also is I was listening to a class by Guru Maharaj recently, and he was talking about there was one, I don't know if it was this godbrother or what, but one devotee was like, I don't know his work exactly, but he like deals, I guess, like financially with like rich people, and so he was dealing with like one of the richest people in India, or maybe over in that side of the world. And he was saying like, he was gonna like get back to the guy like tomorrow about like whatever, some financial information. And then the rich guy was just like so distraught. He was like, tomorrow's like my day off. Like just give me a break from all this. And the man was saying he could understand how much anxiety that this man was, even though he was so rich and had so much money. But he was just so in so much anxiety, he just wanted to break from all that. And anyways, he got the realization like how much of a headache all this stuff is, and then that individual like retired early and kind of pulled out of all that. But anyways, just a couple instances.
Yeah. Thank you. Max, anyways, 9:06 is okay? Or? Yeah, Mataris. Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
So, would you say that a method to counteract the dread that we're talking about in terms of finances, in terms of material possessions, would you say that a method to counteract that is to stay in a state of gratefulness?
To counteract the accumulation of material possessions, you're saying?
No, the dread.
The drag, you said?
The dread.
Oh, the dread of material possessions, you said?
Yeah, you're like constantly in fear that you might lose them, and that like the anxiety and stuff like that, like wouldn't you say that a good method to counteract that is by being grateful?
Yeah, grateful, okay, but what are you grateful for? Like, being grateful for what you have, okay, that's good, but you should recognize who has given it to you, so we understand this, like you were just saying, this Bhoktaram Yagya Tapasam, so Sarvaloka Maheshwaram. Krishna is the supreme proprietor of all planets, he's the supreme enjoyer, and everything actually belongs to him, so everything that we're enjoying, everything that we have, even these bodies, are simply, they belong to Krishna ultimately. All these senses have been given to us by Krishna, this body, all of our possessions, all of our wealth, the situation we're in. It's all the mercy of Krishna, actually. So we can be grateful for that and, in Krishna consciousness, understand Krishna has given me this situation, he's given me all these things. And through that method, we're able to think of Krishna and be grateful for him in that way. And realize, we stay humble in that way that, okay, none of this is mine. I'm actually just borrowing all of these things. And in that way, we don't become attached to the material things, and we're able to, again, stay in Krishna consciousness. This is the ultimate point, and the goal is to be able to think of him, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so basically, feeling grateful is a tool to connect with Krishna consciousness.
On its own, no, but it has to be used in the right consciousness of what are you grateful for. Because if we're just grateful, again, it can just be like this ignorance that we're in that, well, I have all these things, but I'm grateful though, But ultimately, it doesn't cure the problem of old age, disease, and death. Like we can be very grateful to have everything we have, and then if we're not in Krishna consciousness, we're not practicing this process, our life will go by and we're very grateful, very content. We might be somewhat content and happy, but it's like this rich person that we were talking about earlier, that they have so many things, they might feel, okay, I'm happy, but ultimately they're not able to solve the problem of death. They're not able to overcome that. And this will take away everything. So, you can be grateful for all that, and then at the end of life, you can be grateful for the life you had, but it doesn't solve this problem that you have to take rebirth. That's the ultimate thing, is what solves the problem is thinking of Krishna at the time of death, and by practicing Krishna consciousness in life, we're able to think of him at the time of death.
So if your ignorance to reincarnation at the time of death, is it really a problem?
If you're ignorant to it, if you don't know that murder is illegal, is it really a problem if you do it? You're still going to go to jail if you do it. So it's like whether or not you know about it doesn't really change if it's real or not, right? Does that make sense?
It does, in a way, so it's a problem in the grand scheme of the entire universe and the entire consciousness of the collective consciousness as a whole, but your personal consciousness, doesn't perceive it to be a problem until when?
Wait,
if you never know that reincarnation is a thing, and you spend your entire life completely grateful, and you take your last breath and with a smile on your face because you did everything, and you don't have any regrets, and you felt like you lived your life in service, not knowing if it was to Krishna or to just people, or to animals, and you have this sense of fulfillment, and you don't know about reincarnation. You think that it ends there, where I don't really perceive the problem.
Do you want me to answer it? You said you wanted to answer it. Again, the problem is again, if you don't know that, let's see, if you don't know that jumping off a building, will end in you dying, and you think you'll just fly, and you do it, the result is the same. Either if you know it, you're going to do it, that you'll die, or if you don't know. And again, if you don't know that killing someone is bad or will lead you to go to jail, and you do it, you have the same result as someone that does know that it's wrong and they'll go to jail. Same result. So if you live your whole life not believing in reincarnation, not thinking about it, at the end of life, reincarnation will still happen to you. You still have to take another birth, and you have to go through this cycle again and again and again. And even if, all of your lives you're so grateful, happy, content, still this the problem of death, this process of death, is not a happy situation. We can be in this fantasy that, oh, I'll be happy at the time of death, but nobody's happy when they're sick, when they're full of disease, all these things. Nobody's happy to have cancer. Oh, I'm so happy that I got cancer. Maybe they're grateful for it makes them I'm really grateful for the time I have left or whatever. But nobody's like, I want to get cancer. Let's go. I want to get some diseases and I want to die. If they are, we check them into a mental hospital because they're mentally ill. So this problem is not something that's pleasant, and it's not something that we want. So even if you believe in reincarnation or not, you're still in that cycle. And this idea of serving, well, if I serve Krishna or if I serve people or if I serve, this or that, this is kind of a misconception that I can just serve anything and then I'll be happy. But actually, we have to understand our true position that we are eternal servants of Krishna. This is our constitutional position. So just like a fish, if it's out of water, it's not going to be happy in whatever situation it's in. Even if it's helping a bunch of people, it's feeding all those starving children in Africa or whatever. As long as it's not in the water, it won't be happy. So you have to put the fish in the water, and that's its constitutional position, to be in water, and it'll naturally be happy with whatever it has. So if we come into that consciousness of being servants of Krishna and we serve Krishna, naturally we're serving all of humanity, naturally we're serving everything else. See, if we're just serving people and we just want to feed people, this is a misconception. This is a problem because, okay, you feed people one time, but then they get hungry again. And you might feed them for their whole life, but then they die and they go into reincarnation, and then they have millions of other births. How are you going to feed them for all of their lives? And if you want to feed all the people for all of their lifetimes, it's not possible. But if you simply give them Krishna consciousness, if you help them get out of this cycle of birth and death, then actually you can save them from so much trouble of all these millions of births that they have to take. You can actually really help a person if you give them Krishna consciousness. This is true charity. This is true welfare work. This is true philanthropy, is giving them this process of Krishna consciousness.
Okay, one last question. So by helping people get out of the cycle of life and death, isn't that ultimate death?
No, because there's a spiritual world where there's eternal life, and it's full of bliss, knowledge, and eternality, and you don't have these problems of birth, death, old age, and disease anymore. So what we're in is the material world. This is 25% of the creation. And this is where living entities have this cycle of birth and death. And we're here because we wanted to enjoy separately from Krishna. We forgot about Krishna. We wanted to be the controller. We wanted to be the enjoyer. And so the way to rectify the situation is to come into the proper consciousness that we are servants of Krishna, we are servants of God. And through that, again, in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna says that, you think of me, and you'll come to me. So you just think about Krishna and organize your life in a way to serve him and serve his devotees. And ultimately, at the time of death, you get to go to him. And this is 75% of the creation is the spiritual world. And there's, you have a spiritual body. You don't have a material body that decays. And you have a position where you get to be serving Krishna all the time. And it's very blissful, very happy, and it's ever increasing bliss. There's so much variety, and all the variety of this world is simply a reflection of the variety in the spiritual world. So it's not that there's some void, it's not that you stop existing and you just die. This is a common misconception in current spiritual circles, is that, ultimately liberation means just the annihilation of everything and there's nothing, and that's the ultimate nirvana or whatever. But this is a misconception. This is because people don't have any idea that there could be a spiritual world, that there can be a place where there's no birth, death, old age, disease. So they just want to nullify this world. They see it as suffering, this world. They want to get out of the cycle of death. But they don't see the positive impetus. They don't see that there is a spiritual world, again, where there isn't these four problems, if that makes sense. And then the Bhagavatam, if you read the Bhagavatam, it explains all this in detail, how it works, how the material world is created, it talks about the spiritual world, what it's like there and all these things. And you can learn from the past acharyas that, they're directly taking darshan, they're seeing the spiritual world with their vision, And so they can explain to us how that is and how we can get there. They've gotten there themselves and they show us the way. So yeah.
Thank you.
Okay. Hare Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada.